They were abandoned to rot. But thanks to these heroic fans, many of the beloved animatronic characters from classic animatronic bands were saved and brought back from the ashes. Today, we'll tell you the stories of some of the most famous abandoned and rescued animatronics.
I always quack burr.
Film and TV props, Kira Tidmore. We are huge horror and sci-fi film fans, and even though we are very impressed with how far technology and special effects have come in these types of films, we know that they will never replace the magic that props and animatronics give to a scene. We've talked many times before about the props used in films like Gremlins 2, Alien, Men in Black, Ghostbusters, and many more. And we are always heartbroken when we find out that they were abandoned or destroyed. But thankfully, that's not the case for every one of them. In comes Kira Tidmore, an excellent restorer and artist that has worked her magic on so many iconic props. Kira moved to Los Angeles 7 years ago from Alabama. Ever since she was a kid, Kira has always been an artist, ranging from drawing and painting to stitching and sculpting. She later settled on the idea of doing special effects makeup and started practicing all the time. A few months after she moved to LA, she met her neighbor who she learned restored props used on screen from television and movies, and also fabricated replica characters seen in pop culture, horror, and sci-fi. Kira began working side by side with him and learning the craft. She spent 3 years building creatures out of spare parts, handling fragile artifacts from cinema history, and putting her previous years of special effects makeup practice to great use. During this time, she worked on some fantastic pieces, like the Daffy Gremlin puppet. It was actually the first prop she restored. This puppet was designed for shots where Daffy's entire body had to be shown. When the puppet first arrived at the shop, it was in awful condition. It was missing its skin layer on its forearms and fingers. His jaw was completely agape and had no neck. But Kira worked her magic, and Daffy was just as new when she finished with him. One day, her business partner decided to stop working on prop restoration. By that time, Kira had been handling the majority of restoration for the company she was working with. So, she knew that this was the perfect time to branch out and create her own company and brand. And that's how she started KiraSphere. KiraSphere specializes in film and TV prop restoration and preservation. The majority of work she gets is usually from private collectors that want to restore these pieces, and she's worked on some seriously iconic pieces. Kira has restored over 40 props and 4 animatronics for movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, Beetlejuice, Men in Black, Gremlins 2, and many, many more. The process of restoring these props and animatronics depends on what condition it's in and what materials were used. Some of them take a few days, while others can take a few months. One of our favorite pieces to work on has been the Jason Voorhees split head animatronic from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. For this piece, a neck had to be created because its head was hanging on by a small piece of skin. Also, the split on the forehead was lifted and restored to prevent further tearing. Teeth and the bottom lip had to be hand sculpted, and then all the patched and restored areas were color matched and detailed. Another iconic piece she restored was the werewolf arm from the 1985 film Fright Night. Kira is a big fan of Fright Night, and the director himself brought the arm to her so that she could restore it to its former glory. But according to Kira, probably the largest portion of the business has come from the Alien series. At any given time, you can typically find a series of xenomorphs, facehuggers, or giant eggs scattered around the workshop. The thing that really sets KiraSphere apart is the quality. She sets the bar very high when it comes to restoring these amazing pieces, and she has really high standards, so each piece that comes out of her shop is perfect. You definitely need to check out her work, and you'll be amazed at how many impressive pieces she's worked on. Check out her website, kirasphere.net, and be sure to follow her on Instagram and Facebook at KiraSphere. We'll leave links in the description. Animatronic bands, Jack Turner. Guntown Mountain is a park with lots of history. It first opened in 1969 and remained open until 2013, when it had to close because it started losing popularity. The park remained abandoned for 2 years, until 2015, when Will Russell bought it, changed its name to Funtown Mountain, and reopened it. He planned to raise funds with a carnival road tour through 20 states where there would be a live band, a menagerie of freakish animals, and other strange memorabilia. But sadly, everything went wrong with his plan. Russell lost thousands of dollars, but despite this disaster, he reopened the park. The park's concept was pretty interesting. Part of the park kept some abandoned areas and had new attractions with animatronics. It also had Mitzi, Fots, and Billy Bob animatronics from the Rock-afire explosion. Sadly, the park stayed open for less than a year, because Russell's mental health was not stable. In one of his worst episodes, Russell started to destroy and vandalize the park, leaving it devastated, and the Rock-afire animatronics were abandoned in the dark and left to rot. After these episodes, the city shut down the property and put it up for auction along with the stuff inside. And thankfully, the Rockafire Explosion animatronics found their way into the hands of Jack Turner. Jack Turner is an animatronic restorer. He began his interest in animatronics at age 12 thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's. Although he wasn't a fan of the game, he was still intrigued by the concept of animatronics. So he began doing research on them and found that the Rockafire Explosion had inspired the game. He quickly became a fan of the band and started work on a prototype miniature Billy Bob doll. And then in June of 2015, he bought his first full animatronics character, Mitzi Mozzarella from Funtown Mountain. It took Jack a while to understand how the characters worked, but after about a year, he had Mitzi fully working. While he was working on Mitzi, he was also trying to get the Billy Bob animatronic from Funtown Mountain. Thankfully, he succeeded. He restored Billy Bob and got both of the animatronics running on his own MIDI control system. When they were done, he presented them at the Santa Clara Maker Faire in 2017. After this, Jack wanted to continue his work, and he began to search for a full Rockafire show. He was able to purchase a center stage Rockafire Explosion from South Africa. All those characters went to other fans, except Fats, who he kept and restored to pristine condition. Then, in 2019, he brought the 3 fully restored Billy Bob, Mitzi, and Fats to the Maker Faire. That same year, using only a single image provided to him by a fan, Jack tracked down a full Rockafire Explosion show that had been sitting since 1986. He was able to purchase this show, and he is currently restoring them and documenting everything for a series on his YouTube channel, SPT Production. He also has worked with Connor Lechinsky, another animatronics restorer who we have talked about in the first part of this series. They have worked together for many years and collaborated to find the missing Lynchburg Rockafire Explosion show, but also, more importantly, the Gaslight Village Jamboree, which contained Wolfman, Friendly Freddy, as well as Fats. Jack had owned and restored over 40 animatronics, and they almost ended up with other fans. One of his recent restoration projects was to restore 3 Rockafire Explosion characters for Harbor Farm and Vineyard, and he's replaced about 3 of the masks on Aaron Fechter's show. Apart from restoring the animatronics, Jack has also painted dozens of masks for private collectors. He is currently working on many projects, including the restoration of the full Rockafire Explosion, which he says will be done by the end of the year, as well as the Gaslight Jamboree, and of course helping to recreate the materials necessary to restore Rockafire Explosion characters. He has also had fur fabric produced in custom batches to exactly match the original Rockafire fur, so fans will now be able to purchase this for their own characters. Jack has been supported throughout his 7-year journey by Aaron Fechter, who he considers a great friend and mentor. And in the future, he hopes to restore other rare shows like the Hard Luck Bears, Wolfpack 5, and continue to help fans along the way. He also plans to create his own custom characters.
Update: Jack Turner's channel has changed its name to Animatronics Warehouse, and it now features many new videos about the restoration process of his animatronics, especially the entire journey of bringing the Rockafire Explosion back to life. Links in the description.
Rockafire Explosion animatronics. Connor Lechinsky. We mentioned before how in the early 80s, Chuck E. Cheese was having problems, and one of the main reasons for these problems was the arrival of Showbiz Pizza as their main competitor. When Nolan Bushnell became interested in expanding Chuck E. Cheese, he found Robert L. Brock, who was supposed to be his principal investor. But due to different factors, Brock ended up investing in a new project called Showbiz. He developed this new project with the help of Aaron Fechter's creating engineering company. And for this first new project, the team created the iconic Rockafire Explosion animatronic band. This new band had full-bodied animatronics that had very fluid movements and several facial expressions. Time passed, and the relationship between Showbiz and creative engineering began to deteriorate since creative engineering had the rights to the image and recordings of the animatronics, and Showbiz wanted them to give them up without any compensation. Showbiz took all kinds of control from creative engineering and forced them out of the company. By the time this happened, Showbiz owned Chuck E. Cheese already, and they decided that they would change all of their locations to Chuck E. Cheese as part of the company's rebranding. And the Rockafire Explosion Band was replaced by a new show called Chuck E. Cheese and Munch's Make-Believe Band. So creative engineering started selling their show to other restaurants like Circus Pizza, Pistol Pete's Pizza, and Billy Bob's Wonderland. But these places were closed little by little, leaving very few of the Rockafire Explosion bands in operation. This meant that many of the band's sets were abandoned and left in terrible conditions. But fortunately, this was not the end of Rockafire Explosion. Many of these bands were saved from complete abandonment by fans, and such is the case of Connor Lechinsky. Connor is passionate about animatronics and spends his time rescuing and restoring them. Since Connor was a kid, he would take apart toys when they stopped working to see how they worked. This led Connor to become a mechanical engineer, and he has applied all this knowledge into restoring these abandoned animatronics. Connor began back in 2015 when he purchased Rolf and Earl from the Rockafire explosion off Craigslist. Luckily, they came with all the required components needed to function, and were just missing the overall cosmetics to cover its mechanical structure. That's when Connor decided to start posting videos on his YouTube channel. The test for these animatronics was the first video he posted. After these animatronics, Connor purchased a Billy Bob and Looney Bird, but later sold these to buy the Okefenokee Bear Review Band mini set, which contained Billy Bob, Fats, Mitzi, and Looney. He also got 2 variations of Beach Bear, Duke, and Looney Bird, which were part of the new Rockafire explosion. In total, he currently owns 10 complete characters. 8 of them are from the classic Rockafire explosion, and 2 of them are from the new Rockafire explosion. Connor uses the original setup for the animatronics. He was able to purchase several pieces of the original show controller, known as the Great Box, through collaborating with other collectors. Show tapes for these animatronics were recorded onto reel-to-reel tapes, which were acquired from various sources, such as other collectors or eBay. The only problem is that show tapes have begun to degrade to the point where they affect the quality of the audio, cause they're about 30 years old. So soon, he will have to switch to digital by using a surround sound setup. It usually takes him about 3 months to restore the animatronics, depending on the available parts and his work schedule. But the longest time he's taken to find a part was 3 years for an Earl Puppet cosmetic for Rolf de Wolf. To restore the animatronic, all the components have to be disassembled to clean the pieces and later see which ones are in good condition, and see which ones need to be repaired or bought. After this, the cosmetics have to be fixed and cleaned. The latex masks he gets directly from Creative Engineering, and Jack from SPT Productions helps with the painting of the details for the masks also. While all of this sounds very fun and cool, Connor thinks that the most challenging and fun part is finding the animatronics, keeping an eye out, constantly scanning through the internet, and asking around knowing if anyone may have an animatronic for sale, or when a store is going to throw them out. Currently, Connor is in the process of restoring his 11th character, who will become Chuck E. Cheese by salvaging random, assorted parts from people and businesses that no longer need them. His work is very impressive, and it is incredible to see the before and after of all the animatronics that he has restored. Connor's passion for robotics and animatronics continues to grow, and it won't be going away anywhere soon. Because, as he says, there's always something out there that needs rescuing to be restored. And so, he will continue rescuing and restoring animatronics, and sharing his passion with all animatronic lovers through his YouTube channel. So again, animatronic fans everywhere, go check out his fantastic work. There's a link in the description so you can check out his fantastic channel. Beach Bear, Gabriel Studios. As animatronics fans, we know that the love of these machines starts early, and that is also the case with Gabriel Studios. Gabriel is 13 years old and lives in Louisiana, and he has always been interested in animatronics and how they work. He says that vintage technology has been one of his interests since he can remember, and so he wanted to work on a project that related to this. And the perfect moment came last year. When looking for a special project to work on, he went onto eBay. Here he found a Beach Bear animatronic, being auctioned off by none other than Jack Turner. He bid on it and won, and Beach Bear was his for $4,000. Gabriel brought this animatronic with plans of restoring it. His work began with the animatronic's body fur. When he got it, the body fur was very matted up. It looked like someone stored it in a box in the heat for a long time. So he cleaned and removed the mats from the fur and went on to the next step. Gabriel took the mechanism apart, re-greased everything, and replaced any parts that he found damaged. The animatronic's MAC values were in an awful condition when he got it, so he started replacing every seal in the valve bank. Next, Gabriel found a Beach Bear mask, and while it had a couple of rips around it, it was in pretty great condition, especially for its age. He was able to restore and repaint the mask using glue, and repainting it. Gabriel is still in the process of restoring Beach Bear, and he's doing a fantastic job. He hopes to eventually get everything running, including lights, get a full set of cosmetics, and finally build a stage for the animatronic. In the meantime, he is also restoring a Zufari and a Fruit Ninja game that he found in a dumpster at Chuck E. Cheese. They need a ton of work, but Gabriel has been working on them ever since, and hopefully, he will be able to restore them completely. You can follow Gabriel's journey on his YouTube channel, Gabriel Studios, and on Instagram, at Gabriel_Studios1. So, go check his work out.
Update. The last update on Beach Bear was 2 years ago, and he's practically finished. We're still not sure if Gabriel has officially completed the project, but in the meantime, you can go subscribe to his channel. Let's keep going.
Norman, John Kolbeck. Back in 2004, Interpol released their second studio album, Antics, and the second single from this album was Evil. The single's music video, directed by Charlie White, shows a life-sized animatronic puppet who travels via ambulance to a hospital emergency room following a car crash, being examined by real-life actors as he sings the lyrics to the song, to dramatize the song's theme of losing oneself after a trauma, before breaking into a frantic dance on the operating table. White listened to the song on a loop for an entire weekend and hired the special effects team that had worked on the films Hellboy and Fantastic Four to create the puppet. The puppet's animatronic head was programmed to automatically sing the song. 6 puppeteers who needed to be digitally removed from the video were tasked with moving its eyes and body. The video was a huge hit among fans, who thought the animatronic was cute and creepy. They ended up calling him Norman, and he gained a huge cult following on Interpol's online message board shortly after the video premiered. But after a while, Norman was lost, and its whereabouts remained a mystery for almost a decade. When the video first came out, artist John Kolbeck remembers thinking that he would give anything to own Norman, and strangely, 17 years later, he ended up doing just that. John describes himself as a weird guy who's into weird stuff. He is an artist who grew up enjoying Jim Henson's creations and strange late-night TV. And according to him, this mix of interests has been reflected in the kind of work he does and the stuff he collects. Back in 2017, he created a YouTube channel about 2 animatronics that live in the underworld and go on adventures. But he never forgot about Norman. So he began doing an online search and came across this LA prop art where he could see a ghastly puppet that they had listed as a ghoul puppet from some music video. After closer inspection, he realized that the ghoul puppet was in fact Norman. He didn't lose a second before calling to ask about the animatronic, but to his horror, Norman was not only not available anymore, but he had been given away because nobody had wanted him. John thought his dream was over and he was ready to give up, but he decided to try one more thing. He asked for the help of his YouTube channel fans to search one last time for the animatronic, and to his luck, a fan actually said there was a guy on Facebook that was a prop collector, and he had Norman. With the help of his friends, family, and fans, he was able to pool funds together to buy Norman. Norman is now being used to host various videos on John's channel.
Update: John Kolbeck finally restored Norman, thanks to Luna's Puppets, the same company that helped create me. Today, Norman is the host of Kolbeck's channel Odd Stories Wrapped in Plastic. Check out his channel, and don't forget to subscribe, and do the same for Luna's Puppets. Links are in the description.
The King, Jared Sanchez. The history of Chuck E. Cheese pizza is long, interesting, and complicated, and we've talked about it before in previous videos. But the short of it is that it was created by Nolan Bushnell, co-founder of Atari. Nolan wanted to create a place where families could enjoy the games of an arcade while eating pizza and enjoying a live show. And so, Chuck E. Cheese was born. The live show for this new concept was obviously the famous animatronic band, but when it debuted in 1977, it was nicknamed the Portrait Show because the characters were behind 4-foot-tall picture frames. By 1979, many restaurants had also added cabaret shows in separate rooms of each restaurant. Some of these shows were modeled after musical artists like the Beagles, the Beach Bowsers, and the King. The King was a 9-foot-tall animatronic lion dressed in a style resembling Elvis Presley and was programmed to sing Elvis Presley songs, most of which were the original recordings. Everything was doing great. But in the early 1980s, Chuck E. Cheese started having problems. In an effort to get with the times, some changes were made, and one of these changes included the King. The King was rebranded and turned into King Cat. The Elvis theme was left behind and turned into a Michael Jackson-inspired character. His clothes were changed and a new wig was added. Sadly, these changes were not enough to save the chain, and in 1983, Chuck E. Cheese declared bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy!
Showbiz bought all the assets of Pizza Time Theater Inc. and bought both companies together, naming the new company Showbiz Pizza Time Theater Inc., but left the 2 restaurants as separate entities. After this happened, the cabaret shows started slowly being retired, which ended up in The King being abandoned. The King's animatronics were destroyed, auctioned, and used for parts, and some of them were stored. And you would think that this was the end for this royal character.
Childhood character back to life.
I don't even know what category to put this guy in.
The King is back.
Here's where Jared Sanchez comes in. It all began in 1992, when Jared went to Chuck E. Cheese on his 12th birthday. It was at that moment when he became amazed at the King animatronic. That same year, Jared went back to Chuck E. Cheese and learned the unfortunate news that the King had been retired. This tormented him for a long time, until 10 years later, he found a user on eBay selling a King animatronic for $25,000. This is a pretty hefty sum. But it did not stop Jared from talking with the owner and trying to convince him to sell the king to him. It took him 10 years, but Jared convinced the owner to sell him the animatronic for $10,000 and in payment installments. And that's how Jared became the owner of his first king animatronic. Jared spent months replacing its cylinders and learning to sew so he could fit him with new fur. He figured out how to make the king work with a modern computer instead of its old reel-to-reel machine, and learned to program each of its movements painstakingly. In 2016, Jared transformed his master bedroom into a studio, took singing lessons so he could voice the character, and brought the king back. After this, Jared rescued a second king animatronic that he found at Captain Dave's roller rink in Michigan. He called this new character King Puff, and took him on a road trip from Michigan to Tampa in the passenger seat. Then he managed to get his hands on not one, but two other king animatronics. These last two animatronics were stored in a warehouse, and Jared was able to strike a deal with the owner. He helped them clean out the warehouse, and they gave him the animatronics for free. He named one of these animatronics King John, in honor of their former owner, and customized him to be playing a keyboard. The other one was called Four. This king animatronic doesn't have any cosmetics, and he is hilarious. Jared and his animatronics are creating a new concept called Roboloquist. Animatronics and humans interacting on a live show. This new type of entertainment is fantastic and very interesting. And the key to all of this is that this magnificent show is Jared. He programs the animatronics and lights, writes, sings, and also does the voices of the animatronics. And it's no small feat. A short 3-minute sketch can take a week to be created. Today, Jared's goal is to continue working on this type of entertainment, and to reach more and more animatronic fans so they can enjoy his content. If you're an animatronic fan, and even if you're not, go check out Jared and the King's channel. Their content is amazing and so entertaining, and it is such a great way to honor one of the best characters from the original Chuck E. Cheese. All of these amazing creators and restorers are a perfect example of the passion that runs in this great animatronics community. So please, go check out their channels and support them so you can learn more about what they do. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more animatronics and theme park stories.
If you made it to the end, drop a comment saying "last of the real ones" so we can shout you out in the end screen squad. You real ones are the absolute best. We love you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. And remember, we always quack back.